Okay, can I get the lemon?
On what the frick is going on
Listen,
over there?
This is a complicated effing issue. I think we're all aware of that. It's happening. Breaking news this week. In fact, it's breaking news now. I don't know if, Perry, you could pull up that article we were looking at from the FT, but it's like Trump is right now, as we're speaking, saying, I don't know if I'll attack Iran or not. Will I or won't I? We don't know how this is going to play out, how the U.S. is going to get involved, anything. So take it all with a grain of salt. But I did prepare a short primer that might give you guys some idea of like how we got to this point, rather than try to break down the specifics of breaking news. If you don't mind, I'll go to a presentation. Let's
Educate us.
Lemon to say. Okay, I'm here at the Lemonade stand, Horse Electrolyte Powered Stable, aka Breaking News Center, aka. And I want to talk to you about the Middle East today. This is a nice map of the Middle East.
That's
okay?
The Middle East is a
East.
country.
No, dog. That's the thing. Middle East is a region filled with a lot of countries. Great question.
Oh.
Aiden, get your questions better. You're not keeping up with Doug. Okay. I want to explain why we're always hearing so much about the Middle East and why every other country seems to care deeply about the Middle East and why these regional conflicts have so much foreign meddling and so much interest from everyone else. And I think we all know the basic answer, but I'll start with this cartoon. You guys know that trope in movies and TV where one character is so hungry, he sees the other one as food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Timeless.
This is how the rest of the world sees the Middle East, as oil.
Ah.
This is what they see. This is what the big regional powers of any era in the past 100 years have seen when they look at the Middle East. It's oil, crude oil, petroleum, oil.
And then is that Afghanistan with opium?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's cool. You got to have a little fun with
yeah, a
your
little fun.
oil
Apparel
too.
and
Yeah.
food stuff. Okay, so, but mostly it's oil. And oil, as we all know, is like the lifeblood of the modern economy. It is transport, it is plastics. Everything runs on it. Even as we get more electrified, we try to move off of oil, it is still so incredibly vital to modern economies. Every single barrel of oil that comes out of the ground gets bought. Not a single one is just sitting there on the shelf unsold. Everyone buys it. Everyone needs it, especially in the post-industrialization, World War I, World War II era. People have realized that it's incredibly important to their country. And because Middle East has 6% of the world's population, but 30% of the oil, it has always been drawn into conflict and meddling and interest because of the power of oil. That just needs to be understood. I think most people understand this on a base level, but this is like...
Name one time there's
This
been
is,
meddling.
I'm going to get to that. Another thing that's really important, especially in the modern day with the Middle East, are these three red circles. I used YouTube circles so we can all understand what's going on. These three are like key shipping lanes, okay? This is the Suez Canal. Something like 15% of the world's trade goes through this. So if you have military, strategic, or air superiority over this area, you have a real geostrategic advantage. And if someone else does, then you're at threat of them. The Gate of Tears down here, 12% of the world's trade goes through here. That's why there was so much conflict with the Houthis in Yemen, because they could cut that off. This is the Strait of Hormuz.
Strait of Iran.
The Strait of Hormuz.
Oh.
But basically, this is where something like 20% of the world's oil, a fifth of the world's oil, goes through this strait. It is so incredibly important.
Because it's all the oil coming out of like
all
Bahrain,
the oil comes out of these
Qatar,
countries,
UAE.
and it goes out to, through here to Europe.
Right.
It goes to China. It goes to India. It's so important. And Iran has the ability to mine and close off this strait, which could cut off the lifeblood of countries all over the world. So these are really, really important. And every other country, all the major powers, want to make sure that these don't fall into the hands of someone who could be their enemy, who could cut that off from them. Everyone wants the Middle East basically to be divided and to not have enough power to control or have authority over these because they're so important. I just want that to be understood from a strategic level. That is why all the major strategic powers from around the world are coming in to try and redraw lines in the Middle East or get involved. If you flash back, again, you see here, this is US, Russia, and China, who all have their own proxies and influence in the Middle East. If you flash back, turn to the 1900s, China was not a major power. It was Britain. So it was the same three. There were three big powers, but not China. Okay. And I want to start there to get an idea of how we got to where we are today. Because we're talking about Israel attacking Iran. But I want to give a context for why Iran is where it is and why Iran is such a center of conflict for the West in general and then Israel.
Because the tectonic plates moved it there.
That's right. I'm going to start with Pangea.
Okay.
Can you go further back?
So the Big Bang really kicked off.
And the Big Bang is a country.
Doug, you're going to beat all the 11, maybe.
So this is the current Ayatollah of Iran. Iran is a theocracy, pretty repressive, and again, a direct enemy of, death to the United States, death to Israel, death to whatever. So, and I want to go how they got to that specific point. So this is William Darcy. He is a British socialite. He's a party boy. He had rich parents. He went to Australia on a whim. He made a bunch of money doing some mining companies. He didn't do any of the mining. He just threw some money at it. It kind of like TMC, actually.
An Australian does own TMC.
An Australian Aiden threw some money on TMC, made a bunch of money. He's rich as hell. He's like looking for his next business opportunity. He heads over to Persia, which is now modern day Iran, in like 1900. And he says to the leader of Persia, I don't remember this guy's name, he goes, hey, listen, I think I could find oil in your country. I'm going to make it rich. I'll give you $3.7 million. This is in today's money. I adjusted it. If you give me exclusive rights to look through all the oil in Persia for the next 60 years, I'll give you 16% of the profits. The rest goes to me. Now, at the time, there was no oil found, and it's mostly desert, mostly undeveloped. So this guy goes, LOL deal. He goes, fine, I'll take the millions of dollars. I don't think you're going to find anything. And what's crazy is he doesn't find anything for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, for 4 years, for 5 years, for 6 years. It's a big country. He's looking, he's spending money, he's wasting his fortune. They're not finding anything. And then after 7 years, they strike oil. And it's a huge oil field. It's a juicer.
Nice.
It's a massive one. It's a fortune. It's a game-changing
I got a
level of
pog
wealth.
in the chat, bro. Damn.
A pog for Darcy. Okay?
Can we get a W for Darcy?
His 7-year struggle
Damn, that looks
has paid off.
huge.
The wealth he stands to make from this makes this investment seem really, really smart. It makes it really, really beneficial, especially because he signed a 60-year deal, which is absurd. So now he forms the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which becomes a massive success. Or it's just printing cash, geysers of oil, and he only has to give 16% of the profits back to Iran. So it's an incredible deal for him, and the Iranians are kind of miffed. This is not looking good. I don't know if you know anything about the period of history between 1907 and 1950, but something happened in there that made oil really important.
The iPhone.
That's right. That's right. Steve Jobs invented the iPhone, and they needed oil to ship them around the world.
Was it the 2 world wars?
That's right, Aiden. It was World War I and World War II. World War I and World War II.
And those are a country.
These are countries. In these wars, Britain especially, before World War I, Britain is the global superpower. By the end of World War II, they're greatly diminished. But in those wars, they basically put their entire economy towards surviving these 2 wars, and they need oil. They need oil badly. So they decide this can't even be a private company anymore. They take over Darcy's company and make it into what is now British Petroleum. That's where it comes from, BP.
Oh, and they've stayed pretty controversy free.
So they buy him out, and now this is the British Petroleum Company, and they own Iran's oil, essentially. Iran's oil is essentially nationalized by Britain, which is a weird spot to be in. Then this guy comes along. I'm going to get his name wrong, but it's Mohammad Mossadegh, but I'm probably saying it wrong, okay? This guy comes along in Iran. He is democratically elected. He rides a wave of populist support in Iran, basically saying, hey, this oil deal sucks, and we need to nationalize Iran's oil for ourselves. Now, to be super clear, first of all, he's like pretty pro-Western, pro-America. He starts off by saying like, hey, I just want a better deal. Give us 50% split. Give us a better split. Give us insight into the books so we know we're not getting cheated on the profit split. Britain goes, LOL, no. Britain goes, nah, no deal.
I'm beginning to see how this links with my knowledge of Iranian history.
We're gonna get to
I'm beginning to connect the dots here.
It's all going to start to catch up. So this guy goes, we want a better deal. Britain goes, LOL, no. Eventually he wins the election and he goes, fine, if we're not getting a better deal, we nationalize it. So he completely takes the oil fields from Britain and nationalizes them for Iran. Oh, he actually becomes Time Man of the Year. Like, again, he's very well respected in the West. At first, he's democratically elected. This is before the nationalization, but Britain, this is where he signs the deal. He signs the deal, nationalizing the oil fields. Britain gets angry. Britain is very, very pissed because this is a strategically important source of oil for them. They've invested a lot into it. And of course, they have this piece of paper that says they have it for 60 years, which is only about 10 years from being up. But they're like, you cannot break our deal. So they go to US President Truman and say, get him. This guy's breaking our deal. And Britain's a little bro at this point. They've lost so much power post World War II that they go to their big bro and say, hey, go get him. Truman goes, no. Truman goes, this guy's cool. Just give him a better deal. Truman at the time is signing a deal with Saudi Arabia for 50-50 oil splits. And he's like, just do that. Give him 50-50. He's like, don't make it a big thing. Britain is super angry, doesn't want to do that. Then Truman is succeeded by Eisenhower. And Eisenhower is really, really scared of communists. This is the beginning of the Cold War. He's very, very anti-communist. And Britain hatches a plot. This guy, by the way, Mohammad Mossadegh, is not communist. But Britain hatches a plot where they'll say, get him, he's communist. And they start really leaning on the angle of like, he's probably about to be a communist. He's a communist. You got to watch out, Eisenhower, he's a communist. If you don't get him, Iran's going to be communist. And
the more I learn about the Red Scare,
Yeah.
the more insane it gets. It is that era of politics,
Yeah.
through reading Price of Peace, through learning things we've learned on the show, and then just historically, it blows my mind how much you could get away with.
Just
at the
calling
time.
anyone
like
a
just
communist.
saying somebody was a communist.
It's like the Salem witch trials. You
I
just
think-
kind of
Yeah.
It
point.
actually is like that.
And Britain, literally, it's their strategy. Like it's written down. There's some leaked communiques or whatever. Where they're like, yeah, this is our plan. We're going to call him a communist. It's going to get Eisenhower on our side because we need Big Bro in on this. Eisenhower thinks about it. He's like, well, Truman didn't want to. We got to do it. It's communist. So then Eisenhower's angry. Now he's like, all right, well, if you said communist, I'm involved. So he decides, okay, I'll help you out, little bro. And sends the CIA on Operation Ajax. Operation Ajax is led by a man literally named Kermit. This is not a joke picture. His name is Kermit Roosevelt, and he's like the great-grandson of Theodore Roosevelt. Like he's actually related to presidents.
Damn.
Kermit Roosevelt is sent in on a mission to get rid of Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran. Not kill him, but get him out of power. Don't have a picture here, but he does. That's the long and short of it is Kermit does. The CIA helps orchestrate a coup that overthrows Democratic elected president Mohammad Mossadegh for the Shah of Iran to come back. The Shah comes in. He is extremely pro-Britain, pro-West, repressive, and he is the one that's going to allow the oil to go back to Britain.
We were really ripping that
We were-
all over South America.
Well, dude, it's so funny. So this is interesting. Man, the history could have gone so different. They send Kermit in. They give him a small budget and a small team. It fails. They try a coup, it fails, and they send him a letter saying, get the hell out. And he goes rogue and keeps stirring up resentment, then hits on the right thing at the right time to start a spark in it. Anyway, he goes for a second coup. It works. The success of that second coup is what makes them change their whole plan towards coups in South America and other things in general. Like this kicks off. Like had Kermit just stopped, American foreign policy could have been way different. Anyway, they get rid of the Democratic leader and they get the Shah. The Shah, in some ways, really wants to modernize and improve Iran. He wants to use the oil wealth. By the way, the oil never goes back to the original Britain deal because the people of Iran are so against it. But it does go to like, it probably ends up at a 50-50 split, actually. It's close to a 50-50 split, which is insane because they could have had it begin
They
with.
could have just had that and none of this.
Yeah.
could
It
have
really is insane how much meddling they did to get up in the same spot. Anyway, so the Shah takes the profits and in some ways, actually in most ways, enriches himself and funds a repressive secret service to keep his power. And that's most of what he does. It's called a SAVAK. It's like a KGB. It's like a secret service that tortures political opponents and keeps his power and spies on people. Not a good guy. But in some ways, this is the controversial part, he's also a modernizer. He also like liberalizes. He is for women's equality, women's education, trying to be more like a Western democracy. This is Iran in 1979. Then in 1979, after years of brutal repression by this guy, people finally revolt. But it's weird because it's a mix of people. Half of it is like students and young people who feel like they're being economically left out and they want freedom and political rights and repression. And then half of it is like religious groups who really feel like things are getting too modern. And these two groups handshake because they both hate the Shah. And they're like, you know what? We'll team up. We'll figure this all out later. Let's revolt and we'll figure this all later. Even though they deeply, deeply disagree about the future of Iran. Well, the religious groups win. This is like a huge turning point in Iran's history. And had this group came out on top, I mean, this revolution could have taken Iran in a whole different direction because it really was good to get rid of this forced by outsiders Shah. But the religious groups win. They just have a structure. They have mosques all over the country. They have a structure, a plan, I think. And this guy promises when he takes over, we're going to be still a democracy, just with some more Islamic characteristics. The second he gets in power, it's brutal repression, full theocracy, gets rid of other parties. And then women's rights take a huge backslide. A lot of rights take a huge backslide. It's as repressive, if not more repressive than the previous regime. But this country, now that they're out from under the thumb of the Shah, still remembers 30 years of being tortured by the Shah. And that was because of American meddling. So there's this deep, decades-long resentment against the West and America specifically that is now fully free to run wild with this new theocratic regime. And it becomes core to their philosophy is how much they don't like America. So that regime is still in power today. And in fact, we're only like one Ayatollah removed from the Ayatollah that had power then. And the current Ayatollah is like 88 years old. I mean, it is just a dictator for life type thing, theocracy. That's the context you need to understand why Iran has become a strategic enemy of the United States. Now, why it's still so deadly important nowadays is because Iran, starting right around here pre-COVID, has been heavily sanctioned by the West to not be able to sell oil. And these red lines is where they sell to China. Iran in recent years has become extremely dependent on exporting oil to China, and China in turn really values Iran because Iran is now a major source of Chinese oil, which they need for their lifeblood and growth. There's a deep connection between Iran and China that is like only strengthened in recent years, which is why China is now considering Iran something of a proxy in the Middle East in the way that the United States does for Israel. The United States is the big bro for Israel. China's the big one for Iran. And it's both because both of them want strategic superiority over oil and control of these shippings in the Middle East. Like that's the bigger picture of why they're doing it. I'm not making a moral judgment on anything. I'm just saying this is why.
No, that was weird. I think you just endorsed it.
Yeah, I'm just explaining why countries, real politic, why countries do what they do. And that's why, you see their response is stronger and more direct than before. That's why China considers this way more important than they used to, because it has become more important than it used to for their oil. This brings us to today or this week's news about the big battle between Israel and Iran. And I'm not going to go too deeply into that. I just want to explain why it happened this week, why it's happening now. And that is because this battle between Israel and Iran, through proxies and through their own deep conflicts and religious problems, has been happening for decades. Largely, it has been done through their own mini proxies, where Iran has been funding different groups that Israel's been fighting with. And that would be 1, 2, and 3 here. 1 is Hezbollah in Lebanon, 2 was the Assad regime in Syria, and 3 was the Houthi rebels in Yemen. So all 3 of these were funded by Iranian oil as part of a larger struggle between Israel and Iran. Now, you'll notice, if we've watched the news over the past year and a half, you can literally go 1, 2, 3 over Hezbollah was neutralized, or it was defeated by Israel mostly. The Assad regime in Syria fell after 50 years. And then recently, the Houthi signed a ceasefire in Yemen. So as all the proxies one by one have been taken out, it has now opened up this strategic line between Israel and Iran where Israel sees an opportunity. Not right thing to do. Shouldn't be bombing sovereign nations. But I'm just saying this is why, on a real politic level, why it's happening now. They're seeing an opportunity as there's weakness from all 3 of these. Also from another backer, weapons backer, Russia is also in a weak moment because they're focused entirely on Ukraine. So all of these things have combined at once to make this the moment, and that is why it is happening now. And I think all of these things seem like disparate, unconnected events, but they're all deeply connected. They chain one after another, and now we've arrived at this moment. I don't have deep commentary on it. I just want people to understand that so they know what they're getting into and understand how this all connects and where we're headed and why people have different goals in this conflict. Yeah. So hopefully that helped in some way. It was great.
Well,